What is going on, everybody? If we're live, that's amazing. I can't see either one of you guys right now because my screen is stuck on something. There we go. What's up? Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition, episode 45 of For No Particular Reason. I am here. My name is Kerri Lewis with my amazing co-host who's feeling a little, I don't know, psychedelic today, Yanko.
That's right.
And I have the honor of introducing my amazing friend who I've known for a couple years now, who is also a beautiful soul and a gift to the world because she shows up as love like Yanko and I. Irina, I'm gonna butcher Portanova.
Yay!
Woo, woo.
Woo-hoo! Fireworks!
Yay! I know, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. So, Yanko, you got anything to say before we kick this off?
We're actually kicking it off, and I'm just bringing more color because everything kind of seemed beige outside with all the snow that we're having here in the Midwest, and I figure we'll bring a little more warmth to this episode. So there you have it.
Well, I like the warmth. I was telling Irina before you jumped in, I'm wearing 3 pairs of pants and 2 shirts right now, and I could still add more because I'm cold. So I love it. But aside from that, Irina, welcome.
Yay! And I'm super, super excited and grateful that you allow me to be the guest and invited me because I love these raw conversations. And we were just chatting right before we got live. We were just chatting with you, Kerri. And I said, I don't feel tired because when you enjoy what you're doing, you're just having fun. And I said, I just show up and I play fully out where I want to inspire people, where I want to deliver some value. And when we do something that we love, that's where exactly we connect with our fulfillment, with our passion, and with our purpose.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely. Well, so what do you do and what do you love to do that keeps you inspired and playing full out?
Whew, that's a great question. What I'm doing, I'm actually loving to create, right? Because in this work that we are doing, we are the main creators for everything what we are generating, right? So right now, I'm working on a big thing. I'm going to have at the end of the month the 5-hour immersive experience, the workshop where people come and actually walk out with the action plan, how to make things happen. And I'm so involved in that because this is the first huge event that I'm going to have. And it's interesting. It's a little bit scary, but at the same token, it's very rewarding. And when we are doing something what we love, when we are creating in the process, like I do have that boost of the energy. That's exactly what happens. Sometimes I could be like exhausted by the 9 o'clock in the evening. And like an hour later, I'm like, where is that energy coming from? That's exactly what happened when we are doing something what gives us life. We do have more energy.
Mm. Well, because you're
Inspiration.
in spirit, you're
Yeah.
inspired. Yeah.
Totally.
It's so
Sometimes it feels like the body is tired, but you're still going. Almost
Mhm.
there is tiredness in the body. Like say if you walk in and are doing more physical things, but then everything else is just you know fun.
Absolutely. Yep.
so talk to me about an action plan, taking action.
Mm.
What does that mean for you?
Oh my God. Action is the biggest part to everything, right? Because it's one thing when we wish for something, it's another thing when we have this vision board because everybody is so big on the vision board, especially it's the start of the new year. And a lot of people think that, okay, I'm just going to put these images and I'm going to look at my board daily, and they think that's enough, that everything else is happening automatically. But actually, it requires the action from us, right? Because if there is no action, we are not really receiving what we want to receive. And the action could be very small, but my thing is, you do have to take these steps daily. For me, it's daily, even on the weekend, because if there is something that is calling you, if you're desiring something, then we are ready to put the work in. And the small actions, for me, for instance, I use my Google Calendar for everything. So I put everything what I'm meant to do on my Google Calendar, and that becomes my spiritual tool that moves my energy towards something that I want to accomplish. And I always suggest for people to break it down into like really small steps, because our energy loves the completion. So if by the end of the day we can complete a small task, we feel good about ourselves. Otherwise, we feel too overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Not only that, but my experience show that people feel overwhelmed right from the beginning, like because this whole thing in their head looks like it's a giant project.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
taking baby steps kind of allows you to maybe get your feet wet, but not like get like the whole thing, and then you come to yourself back and you say, "Oh, that wasn't so bad. Maybe I can take
Mm-hmm.
another step," or so on.
Mm-hmm.
But in what I do, it's called pacing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's about it. But yeah, you 100%.
Well, what do they say? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? How do
Right.
you walk a journey of 10,000
Mhm.
miles? One step at a time. But I also think it's important to highlight for people that, particularly if they're stuck in low energy, right? So I work with people who struggle with addiction and depression and anxiety. And we know that that is a low vibrating energy. So the energy that they actually exist in within their body can make it feel really hard to take action. And so, what I love that you shared, Irina, is small, consistent action, right?
Mhm.
So you said
Mhm.
you do it every day, and it doesn't have to be big. It could be as simple as drinking a glass of water, but
Mhm.
more importantly, celebrating that action, because what that's doing is not only are you taking a step toward shifting your energy to feel better, but you're also changing the neural pathways in your brain to make
Mhm.
it so that you feel like that it feels easier to take that step tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And so, yeah, I agree with you that we can have visions, but if we're not taking actions toward them, you can manifest, but it's going to be quite arduous. It's going to feel really hard, unless your action is to sit and do nothing and manifest, and then you got to do the work to sit and do nothing to manifest, and even that takes a lot of effort.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't. Yes.
And my experience is that you can sit under like the yogis. You can sit under a tree and pretend not to do anything. But and I say pretend because there's no non-doing. Like everything, like the life it's doing you. You're pretending that you're not doing anything. So, not to say that if you're not taking action, you're not going to get to your goal, but like if that's how you attract it with your vibration and everything, that's about to happen. Um, but taking action will probably take you there faster,
Mhm.
and that's how I think.
But I do want to also highlight, and I think this is important, and I'm curious what you think, Irina, is making sure you're taking action but honoring yourself where you're at too, because I see people go from one extreme to another, meaning they have a goal, but maybe they're not passionate about the goal, and they drive themselves mad. Like there's no self-care, they basically become obsessed with a goal and lose sight of anything but that thing. And for me, and this can feel differently for everybody else, like part of my goal is to have a relatively balanced life. Now, I think that to your point, you have an event coming up, right? So that's going to maybe require a more intensified action for a short term, but that's not sustainable for a balanced life if you're just focused on one specific area of your life and every other area of your life falls apart. So it's being aware of the action you're taking and for how long, and what is your end goal for like the entire experience rather than just a part of your life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, it's all about the balance, Kerri, right? And when we talk about manifestation, we also want to honor, like Yanko was saying, there is the energetic part of us, right? So even when we want to manifest, sometimes even to sit in stillness, it is a work. When we connect to ourselves, and at that moment, we actually charge our energy and we also can receive the insights. For me, for instance, insights come when I'm in the shower because the connection with water, right? The water carries the energy and the information. For me, when I'm at the shower, it's just like boom. Okay, this is something I want to implement. The thing is that we all generate ideas, but a lot of times people are not aware and people do not pay attention, or sometimes a good idea comes to us and we are like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then we kind of forget about it. And that's the point. The point is, if you catch that idea that inspires you, like that really, something that you feel in your body, like excitement, just act on it. Like my thing is just act on it, because action doesn't have to be perfect. Even imperfect action is going to lead us to something, because manifestation, it's all about movement. We are not just sitting and pondering upon it and then get frustrated because things are not moving, right? Our energy loves the action and movement. And in that movement, we receive the clarity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
would you
plus,
say, sorry, but
oh, go ahead, Yanko.
I was gonna say, would you say, for, because I know by myself, for myself, that when I was getting ideas or inspirations, or some people call them downloads or whatever,
Mhm.
um, I wasn't writing them down, and then they were just going the same way they were coming. Because like
Mhm.
almost like dreams, like if you're not like writing your dreams down, then 10, 15 minutes after you wake up, they're gone. And you know you had a dream, but like you don't quite get it. So would you say that that'll be like a good thing to do? Like, I think for me, that was a great tool. And I've seen it more and more when I go to events and other things where people have like a small notebook, or they take notes, or whatever they want to go back to and ponder on, or just have it to write down. And it doesn't have to be even a physical, it could be like electronic book or something, like a
Mhm.
note-taking thing.
Absolutely, Yanko. That's exactly how it is, right? Because we cannot act on all the ideas right away. And especially if we receive like the full shower of the ideas, it would be good to write them down, because eventually you go back, you read it through, and you see like which of the ideas really connects with you. And then you act on that idea. Because remember, we are always guided by our intuition. Intuition is our inner GPS system, and the
Right.
more we listen to our intuition, because remember, a lot of majority of people operating from the logical mind, but once we really learn how to connect with our intuition, our life becomes more smooth and we achieve the results much faster, because now we are intuitively connected and we are acting on something that generates the results that we want.
Right.
It's
Eh,
I, I'm going to jump in here real quick. Gail and I were talking about this yesterday. And I think that, particularly when you're tapped in, you do get a lot of insight, right? Um, and some of it you're meant to act on, and some of it you don't, because you get so much of it. And so it is also important to recognize that, you know,
Mhm.
yes, if it feels really good and juicy, take action. But sometimes it's going to feel good and juicy, and then something else is going to feel good and juicy. And I think ultimately for me, the important piece is to be in joy. like just
Mhm.
to sit in joy. Because when you're in spirit, you're in joy. And if you're in joy, you're taking action. And it could be, I mean, this morning, Nana and I had our foam rollers and we had a sword fight at the gym. That's like seemingly silly, but no, that's taking action because it's keeping us in joy and light spirit before we go into a hard workout. And then other things might come to me and I'm like, I just don't get to do them. And it doesn't mean that it's good or bad, right or wrong. It's just when you are tapped in, you're tapped into the limitless creativity of infinity. Like that's true. Like you were truly, truly tapped in. So I would say maybe keep a notebook, but understand that if you don't get to all of them, that's okay too.
Yeah,
Yes,
and you took
absolutely.
it, and you took it right off, like what I was gonna say, because like it's, if you think it like in terms of like left brain, right brain, and how they're syncing, balance, and everything. Once you get the inspiration, you might not feel it. Like you might get it, but in that moment, you're just like, nah, that's okay. Like it's inspiring, but like I don't think this is the thing I want, because like then the thinking critical factor comes in instead of having bolt and sync, because like the right will give you feelings, inspirations, and other things, and then the other side will be the logic that comes in and says, you know what I mean. But that's what I was gonna say. You get what you get, and then you sit and you see what brings you joy, and you brought it like right 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's what I like about what you share with your clients, Yanko, is to use your imagination to go down different pathways to see whether it feels right. Because we can think that we'll really enjoy something, but then as you move down that pathway, you might not like everything that comes with that. And I'll give you a really good example because I was watching a couple documentaries. Famous people, a lot of people, have this idea of becoming successful because of the thing they like, but they don't think about all of the things that come with fame, right? Paparazzi, being in the news, having to have your integrity questioned all the time. And so if people think about, you know all of the things that could come with what it is you're striving for, it can help them really lean into something that is going to feel nurturing and supportive for them, like all around, rather than one part of what it is that they're inspired to do.
Yeah, my thing is I use it more as a tool, because in outer state of being, like when I hypnotize somebody, or not even like, because that's a natural state, anyone can be in that state when you go in, like daydream per se. The mind doesn't know the difference between now and future and past, or what's imagined and what's not imagined. And I usually show them that, because a lot of people don't even have that experience. Have them imagine a lemon or something, that it'll have the body react, because the body follows where the mind goes. So in a way, you're taking a shortcut and you're going where you think you're supposed to go, and you feel it in your body, and you see that does it feel like good? Do you feel it? Like, is it taking you to the next step or whatever? And then as you take it step by step, like what will come out of that? Like maybe I'll get clients, and you go like, okay, well, what will come out of that? Well, then I'll get more money, but then what will come out of that? Well, I have money to do this. And then you drill down and you get to the point where you're actually going, because you, like you said, you had an idea, but you don't really know if this is what you want.
Yeah.
So it's more of a tool that I use, and anybody can use that to use their imagination to see what they're really going for. It's what they want, so they don't actually get the time and to get disappointed in the end once they have it.
We
What
call
do
it
you have?
visualization. In
Yep.
Hmm.
manifestation, we call it visualization. Just go
Hmm.
into the place that inspires you and see who you're with, what exactly you are doing. And it's all about feeling the feelings, right? Because, like
Hmm.
you mentioned, Yanko, our body doesn't see the difference between real and imaginary. So, the
Hmm.
more we tap into the feelings, and that's where Kerri's statement come true, the more we are enjoy, the more we are staying in a higher vibration. And what happens when we are staying in a high frequency? We start attracting everything what's on that frequency. So our job is to stay as long as we can on these higher frequencies. So we start attracting the people, we start attracting the opportunities, we start attracting the reality that we would like to have in our life.
So how did you get on this path of manifestation, Irina? Have you always been somebody who was aware of frequency and law of attraction?
Absolutely not. So the first experience I had when 6 years ago, I was on the verge of the divorce. Because before that, like I said, whenever something drastic happens in our life, that is the time when people start like pondering why I'm here, like what is the purpose, like why am I feeling so lost and disconnected. So for me, before that experience, I did not know anything about spirituality. I was just navigating my 3D reality. And 6 years ago, when I was on the verge of the divorce, that was the first time when I was like shaked to the core. And that's when I started to ask myself, like, why is this situation happening to me? Why? What did I do to be in this situation? Right. And the more I was asking these questions, the more I was tapping to the answers. And then it was just, I still focused on, I want to have the good relationship with my husband. I see that this thing can happen. And although a lot of times it wasn't very intentional manifestation, but it was manifestation because we are all manifesting all the time, right? But a lot of people are manifesting unconsciously
Yep.
because with each breath we are taking, we are manifesting. And once you start manifesting consciously, and what does it mean? It means directing your thoughts, directing your feelings and your actions towards the desired outcome. Then you see how things are really showing up in your life. And it took me 10 months, right? He moved out of the house, like he already filed for the divorce. Like if you look from the outside, that's why like I'm a true believer in that. A lot of times people are looking from the outside and they are like really holding to the circumstances. The circumstances were showing that nothing is possible because
Right.
everything was already in motion. And he was very stubborn. There was no way to talk about anything. So I just, like gave him the space. And I was just picturing the good times. I was always going back to all the time that we had together when we were joyful and happy. And in 10 months, we reconciled. He actually came and he said, let's try it again, right? So that was the huge manifestation for me. After that, I even started to think more and ask myself like deeper questions like, well, there is something out there. Let me explore what it is, right? And then I started like really learning about myself from numerology, from astrology, from tarot cards. The more I was tapping into this mysterious world, the more I realized that everything is connected, and it doesn't matter where I was generating my information, the information was coming the same. So it can't be that this is the fluke. It's like it's a real stuff, right? Just because we do not know something, it doesn't mean that it's not there. And then I started to actually play with the manifestation with numbers. And back in October of 2019, I started to manifest, okay, I want to have my successful business, which is going to give me fulfillment. And I was just using the procedure that was given to me, and I wrote it on a paper. I clipped it in my bathroom, right? It was October 2019. In March of 2020, I lost my job due to pandemic. And that was the time when I said, okay, I'm not going back. When the time is right to work for somebody, I really want to see what's out there for me if I run my own business. And it took another 5 or 6 months for me to tap what is there for me to do. But because I was open for the ideas, I was like, okay, let me see what unfolds. I was always staying in the curiosity mode. And that's exactly when my daughter, who was in the high school, approached me because she said, Mom, I can't study from home. Hire me the therapist. And I said, I do not know any therapist. So we reached out to our dance teacher. Like our dance teacher becomes the hero in all this situation. And she said, listen, I don't know any therapist, but I know this girl. She's a life coach. And that was the first time in my life that I heard the term of life coach. And again, it's never the lack of the resources, it's the lack of our awareness. So
And the
when I went,
questions. It's
yes,
asking the
definitely.
right questions and being willing to hear it, because we'll get the
Right.
answer, right? Seek and you shall find. It is sworn.
Hmm.
It is the law. And yet then we're like, oh no, but that's not the answer I want. So that's not the answer I'm going to
Right.
listen to.
Absolutely. Just keep an open, right? Open mind is staying in the receiving mode. The
Yep.
fixed mind is the one who denies everything and just experience the life on the lower level than you can actually have it, right? And
So
then yes, so once I learned what they are doing, I received the certification, and my mentor, she was all about manifestation, and I just love it so much. So after that, I was just manifested my business, right? This is exactly what I'm doing right now. I manifested my divorce because as I was growing up, like we were growing apart, like because as I was elevating, my husband was staying where he was, but he was actually initiated that. And I was like, okay, that's the blessing from the sky. So I manifested my divorce, and I manifested my new love.
I love
So
that.
it's all about, like I said, we're all manifesting, but a lot of people think manifestation is something like the dark magic or you have to do the rituals. Not necessarily. Manifesting is actually directing your focus on something what you want rather than just allowing life to happen. And a lot of people are manifesting from fear, from, like just, doubt. And that's exactly what they recreate again and again.
I was gonna say, because that's, and I want to hear your opinion about it. How important it's taking responsibility for what you're manifesting in the manifesting process, instead of saying I am the victim of circumstances and what's happening, because at that point you're still manifesting, but you're manifesting from not understanding. You sow the seeds and you reap the product or
Mhm.
whatever came out of that, and then you say, well, it's not my fault, it's his fault. Because of him, this is why I'm in this position.
Mhm.
So I want to
That's
hear your
such a
yeah,
great
go ahead.
question, right? Such a great question. And honestly, I'm very grateful to my ex-husband, because if that situation was never happened 6 years ago, I would be still sleeping. I would never wake up, right? And again, all our actions, something what we are doing, right? Uh, from my end, what I see happening, it's not no boundaries. That is something that lead me like more like, okay, let me just see what's wrong with me, maybe I can just make things work, right? So actually anything what we are creating, we are the results that we see, we are the ones to be in charge of it. But a lot of times the more we ponder upon it, then we see like that trait, why these things actually happen the way that they happen.
Yeah,
So
because to
I
me it
want to
was,
jump in because there's
yeah,
a
go ahead.
couple things that you said. I'm sorry, Yanko, but like
No, no, no. This is flowing so good that
it's
we're all like in it, and everyone's having like ahas and wants to
well,
share. Go ahead.
so I think I want the listening audience to understand this, right? So Irina gives a lot of, she recognizes that her ex-husband is a critical part to her awakening, which is a beautiful
Hmm.
thing. And I truly believe
Yes.
that. But understand this, guys, everything is cyclic. So if Irina hadn't woken up with her divorce, she would have lost her job, and that would have been the universe's way of shaking her. Or in my case, like I went through a lot of trauma myself. I had 6 car accidents, my sister died, all these things. And we will have continuous um moments where the rug is quote unquote pulled out beneath us because the universe wants us to wake up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it really, really does. And so you're never going to run out of opportunities to start to be like, whoa, I got to do something differently. But secondly, to Yanko's question, if we sit and play victim, like, and I know that sounds awful, and I don't want to diminish people's experiences, because if you don't know you're the cause of your own experience, it's not your fault. It really isn't. However, at some point, one must take responsibility for their experience. I can't tell you how many people I work with who were like, well, when I grew up and blah, blah. I'm like, I get it, but you grew up and you were a little kid for like this amount of time. Now you're an adult for this amount of time, and you're still sitting in the suffering that you experienced for like at most 18 years, right? And so I think it's really important that people recognize that you hold infinite power, but you cannot yield it properly until you take responsibility for the experiences you're currently having.
Love it. That's so true. And that's where comes that when Yanko mentioned, right? A victim versus hero, because we all can stay in that energy where say, look at this, look what happened to me, look what that person did to me, right? And constantly, and people do not even realize, like I always say, do not entertain that energy, because it's low vibration energy. The more people go around and share with everybody, look what that person did to me, or look what happened to me, they are bringing back this past experience into the present, and they actually will welcome that experience in the future without even consciously realizing it. So the idea is to pause, stop that nagging, and just like really be accountable for everything what's happening in your life, and just say, you know what, I do not want to live that life again, and what can I do in order to shift my focus and in order to start living more in powerful life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is so powerful though, because um, when you're looking for that, then you find it, because
Mm-hmm.
where attention goes, because technically you're going and you're looking for validation of your experiences, and you
Mm-hmm.
go, This I'm the victim. Tell me, like, you
Mm-hmm.
sure?" And they
Mm-hmm.
go, "Oh, poor you." And then you go to the
Right.
next one. It's like, "Oh, this is what happens to me," and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, poor you," and you keep going and you're saying, "Hey, is that how it is?" And the universe is like, "Yeah, you want that? There you go."
Yeah,
And you go to the next one. It's
that's
like,
more.
you want that?" It's like, "Oh, there you go." And you keep
Mm-hmm.
getting the same result.
Yeah, I'll never forget one of my clients. I mean, she eventually stopped working with me, but she straight out said to me that, you're not appeasing my illnesses. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. I'm not. Because if I do, you get to keep them. Now, you get to keep them, but you don't have to, right? Like, if there is evidence that suggests people have grown back limbs, who have overcome cancer through thought, who have, gone through near death experiences, you cannot convince me that we have to stay attached to illness or mental health suffering or addiction, right? But until you're willing to at least, right, in so many spiritual scriptures they say you need a rice size grain of faith. That doesn't mean you have to have this huge faith, but you do have to suspend what you think you know a little bit. But if you're not willing to do that, you get to keep your experience. Me as a coach, and I imagine you, Irina, as well, because you're a coach, I'm not willing to entertain your suffering with you. I look beyond your suffering to the infinite power that you are of love, and I see pure love. And I look at that full expression of abundance, joy, and peace and harmony. And to your point, the exterior circumstances may not highlight that for you in this moment, but if you start to latch on to that abundance, peace, joy, happiness, right, amazing relationships, eventually you flush out all the crap that has been created energetically, and you start to experience all of those things that you start to allow yourself to believe in. But again, it's personal responsibility and accountability. Like, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody. Whether it's an
Mhm.
addiction, whether it's in mental health, whether it's in a job, whether it's in illness, there's not a doctor in the world that can save you if you don't believe that you can be saved. So it's truly paramount that people understand that we are always manifesting, always. And
Mhm.
you don't have to overthink it. Truly, you don't have to sit in meditation and stuff to manifest, but you are responsible to keep your energy at least joyful, because at least if you're joyful, you're going to be manifesting joyful experiences.
Mm. I love what you share, Kerri, because it's like, like we are reading off from our energetic field, because that's what I wanted to say, that when you were sharing the story with your clients. So our job as the coach is, like, feel compassionate with the clients, but at the same time, do not buy their story, because they are the ones to sit in their circumstances and conditions, because they do not believe something else is possible. But us, since we lived through that experience, and just say that, hey, if it happens for one, it can happen for everyone. All it takes is, just like you mentioned, keep the corner of your mind open for the possibility. And us as coaches, we are holding that space for the clients, we are holding that energy, we are believing in the clients when they do not believe in themselves. And that's the power to partner with somebody who can be your accountability partner, who can guide you, and who can actually be there for you, celebrate with you, right? Because we were not meant to do this work alone, not single person. Like, I have two coaches, and that's exactly how I grow through my experience. That's exactly how I flourish in my inner strengths and in my business.
Yeah. Well, where there are two or more, there is a creative, whether you believe in spirit, energy, whatever, and something that I like that you said earlier is it doesn't matter how you get there, right? So like Yanko
Mhm.
and you guys have followed more of an esoteric path, right? Through either like spiritual literature on astrology or tarot or whatever.
Mhm.
Me, mine was quantum physics, science, and
Mhm.
theology, right? Two,
Awesome, I love it. Two
exactly.
different points, right?
Very, very different. But to your point, everything leads back to one thing, and that's love. Right.
Mhm.
And what I really want, like, the listening audience to understand, if any of this feels so foreign and obscure or really like hard to believe, that's okay. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if you can stay in love, real genuine love for self, because when you love yourself, it's impossible not to love others, then you open yourself up to new experiences, and then you can start to open your mind to different possibilities. And when we think about death and life, right, what happens when somebody dies? Their body stiffens. What happens when a tree is alive? It bends in the wind. And so when we close ourselves off to these limits and these ideologies or this way of thinking because of how we were raised or the culture that we live in or the experiences we've had, we stiffen. And in that, we lower our energy, because that low energy is closer to not being alive at all. So can you give yourself permission to expand your way of thinking?
I love what you shared, because that's what comes, like, with the faith and belief, right? And again, when people say I do not believe, and I said, what do you have to lose? you've
Right?
already you've already experienced the way you are living for so many years. And if you really want to bring new experiences in your life, all it takes is for you just start doing different things in order to produce different results. And that's exactly what it takes. So obviously some people can sit and deny everything, and they are just staying in their fixed mindset, and they are just navigating their 3D reality without understanding there is so much more to life that they can actually tap if they make that willingness, and if they make that decision. Because like you mentioned, Kerri, it doesn't matter who you're going to be trained with, with the top coaches, with us. the most important thing, if the person does not want to work, everything works when you work it. If you are not putting in the work, if you are not coachable, if you are putting blame on somebody and say, you know what, I invested so much money and I do not see the results. But in order for the results to be there, you gotta practice, you gotta do the do. Otherwise, you're not going to experience any breakthroughs.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something, and that's my own experience that, when you get to a point where you're manifesting and you're sitting in joy and everything is going well, there's also things that what they're called karma or other things that you manifested and it keeps coming up, but you're just kind of cleaning it up. And that might throw some people off thinking that, well, it's not working because like I'm doing everything like it's supposed to and it's not happening. What is your thought about that?
Yanko, this is a great example. I always bring people to something that they experience. If you are learning to play the new instrument,
Hmm.
how much practice do you have to put daily? And like any skills that you are doing, whether you are swimming, whether you are doing sports, if you've never done it before, you know that you have to hone those skills. And it's a daily work, it's the practice that you do it consistently. And there is no such a thing as you say, you know what, I'm never going to play that instrument because I'm not talented, right? Because if you put the work in, if you partner with the coach, you put the work in, things are starting progressing, and in a year you already see that something is amazing happen, right? And then again, look at the athletes or the musicians or anybody, right? When they become good at something, they do not quit. And that's another thing what I notice among the clients, like they complete the program and they think they are good to go, and some of them come back later because they realize, you are not meant to walk this walk by yourself. It's very difficult to put yourself into this work because the work is rigorous. It requires the effort, it requires the strength from you, and it requires somebody else to look at you, because like I always say, we cannot see the picture when we are the ones in the frame. It feels like, okay, I've got it, I know what I'm doing, but it always takes another person to pull these answers from you by asking the right questions. So the idea is this self-growth work is never done. Until we are breathing, we are still growing, we are evolving. And each time it's like you're moving from one level of awareness to the next level of awareness. And the more you experience the breakthroughs, the more you experience the joy, the more you want to do this work because you know that it works.
So I actually want to circle back to your question, Yanko, because I heard it a little differently. And answer or give my thoughts on what you shared too, Irina. But first, so karma, when we're talking about karma, I can just use my experience, right? So for a lot of years I was very angry, and as a result I popped off. Like I was very impulsive, I could be really really argumentative. And so when I started to do this work on my own, I would still run into situations where people would engage me, where my natural inclination would be to pop off, right? And like lose my temper. And that was because of the karma I put out there. Like I put out this really angry energy. And so that energy had to flush out. And so what I think, and I could be wrong, you can clarify if I am, Yanko was saying that I'm trying to highlight for the listening audiences, you are still going to have experiences from the energy that you put out there in the past, because energy never goes away. You transmute it, right? It's going to transmute. And so sometimes you have to move through some of that icky, sticky energy that's been cultivated, because what you send out comes back to you guys. If I send out negativity, I'm going to feel it, right? And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to shake that. So that's where Irina, in saying that, having a support system, a coach, is super helpful, because then you have somebody to say, yep, I know right now you're not seeing the fruits of your labor, but stay true to the course, because you will eventually shake that energy. You've transmuted it. And now I rarely get situations where I'm inclined to, because I'm a pretty peaceful person. So the experiences I have, right, what I attract is peaceful experiences. But I do want to say I feel a little differently than Irina in around coaching. I feel like if you need to work with me more than like 2 years, I haven't done my job. I just believe that, because my job is to hold you accountable to build in a discipline within your own body so that you can move forward. Now, is that to say you shouldn't work with other coaches in different areas? No. I'm constantly working with different people to gain insights. So I do think that we absolutely should be learning and growing in collaboration and community, but I don't think that you need to work with the same person. And the reason I say that is because some people, and again, I want to highlight, because I work in addiction and mental health, some people become addicted to like the person they're working with or the program that they're in. And the problem with that is when you're a slave to externals of any kind, you don't know how to tap into your own internal narrative, your own story, what feels right for you. And when you're working on disciplines, we're building our mid-cingulate cortex. That's a part of your brain that's weak. It's like a floppy bicep if you've never been into the gym. But as that builds, you can then become more self-reliant on yourself to lean into the behaviors and that intuition that you have within yourself to then guide you into the next experience of your life.
I think, and that's where the mastery really comes in. Because, like, if you're master and you can do something without even your tools, then you're real master. Because I found that out personally when I first went on the journey of meditating or going within, that there's applications, there's music, there's all kinds of tools to support you, to help you go within. And then I found out really quick that I'm becoming like really dependent on having the headphones or having a quiet space or something. Now I am at the point that I can go within when I'm in the middle of a chaos. Like, nothing will bother me outside. There could be like drums or something going on. I don't depend on those tools anymore, and that's the point that you're making. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, what comes to me is the skill, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, for instance, to play the instrument, you develop the skill, but then you practice it. You are not quitting it regardless, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
obviously we can practice it alone, but it's always better when you have somebody like
Oh
the
yeah.
community. Like, I wanted to talk about the power of the community when you have, especially in manifestation, because once you manifest one big thing, you are on for something else, right? And each manifestation requires a specific goal setting and specific actions that you are taking. So it's always great when you have somebody by your side. For instance, even like with me, I changed the business coaches because one business coach took me to one level, and then if I want to upscale, then I'm searching for somebody who is up in particular that field, right? So to your point, Kerri, if you're working with the people who have the addictions, once they are already healed and they can be on their own, then they might seek another coach, right? Whatever their next journey is. So I agree, you can change the coaches, but I'm still, true believer that this is my path. Like, whether I'm going to learn more about esoterics, I want to have the coach, whatever it is. It's good to have somebody who already been done that, and somebody who is more skillful in that area that you want to explore. So for me, it's like that life learning process. I know I always want to be with the structure of support. I always want to tap into different communities. And that's exactly how I see my growth going forward. And, like for all these successful people, they still have their masterminds. They get into these circles where they are sourcing the ideas because, like I said, otherwise you can hit the plateau where you are not really moving forward because you are not tapping to all that experience and all that knowledge that you might have it if you are under the structure of support.
Yeah, see, here's the thing though, that I think goes to being guided by intuition, right? Which is, again, I I think that it is critical that we understand that we're not separate, right? We are
Absolutely,
one
yes.
collective.
Yep.
Um, and as you're in spirit, you will be led into different communities and stuff. So I agree with you there. I just again think it's really important for the listening audience to understand that you should outgrow people. You
Hmm.
absolutely should outgrow people, just like you outgrew your business coach. Because unless you're enlightened, you start, like, I have always outgrown my leaders. I learned from them and I outgrew them. Learned from them, outgrew them. And I kept challenging myself. And so to Yanko's point, achieving self mastery is knowing when it's time to say this no longer serves me and opening yourself up to a new
Hmm.
experience.
Exactly. Hmm.
And if you're not in joy, you probably have plateaued and it is time to seek something different.
And there's no different really when you get to the other side. It's still the same thing. You When you get enlightened, you're still in the world. You still eat. You put your pants one leg at a time, and it's like, I don't remember what was that one quote from Tao or something, that something you bring water, and I don't
Oh yeah,
remember. It
yeah.
was
So
something. I think we lost you there.
Yeah.
She got a little too excited. There you go. You're back.
yeah, it's weird. My internet keeps going in and out. It's like,
Well, you
nope,
put you
I don't
put
want to
this
hear from you.
vibe, that magnetic field came out of you and shocked the system, and the Wi-Fi and everything went just like, I'm too excited. No, but it's a real thing, though. I don't think that a lot of people. This is a side thing, but like my experience of working with people remotely, and especially in the field of like change and things like that. Sometimes when there is like a lot of surge in energy, because we're like small batteries, that affects
Hmm.
the electronics around you too. You might have computers malfunction, lights flicker, other things. It's weird, but yeah.
But I mean, I just think that's I just look, we know that things are speeding up, that the energy is pretty interesting right now. And so I just kind of laugh and I'm like, oh well, I'm going with the flow here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I love it so much. So what else you got for us, Irina? We got what, 5 minutes before we start to wrap
Yes,
up? Is there anything?
yeah, I just enjoyed this conversation, and I wanted to say for everybody who is listening, there is something inside of you that is calling you for better life, for something to experience, whether like you are not happy with where you are today, whether this is your job or your business, or maybe that's your partner or your health, and there is something inside of you which is calling for more life. And I would invite each one of you to pay attention to that side and really honoring it, and ask yourself the question, what do I have to do in order to change my life for better?
So two things that I love. Your language, right? So I invite, I encourage. It's such a warm, welcoming way of like calling on people to consider a different possibility for themselves.
Hmm.
And I think for anybody out there who's looking for a coach or a therapist or a hypnotist or anything, it really thinking about that language, because language is so powerful, and
Hmm.
how we use our words really is how we show up. So one, I want to honor that in you, because that's um
Thank you.
and two, so you're sharing that truth, and I understand that. I'm curious, did you see it? I think I keep going.
Yes, we didn't hear your second thing.
So did you experience fear when you started to exist?
Yeah, she faded away, but
Mhm.
you get the gist of it.
Yeah, I only heard if I experienced, Carrie, please repeat. You asked me if I experienced the fear when?
When you it's 6 years ago when you started to examine your
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely. I was like freaked out. And I remember I couldn't even function. I mean, now I'm just talking about it like it was a piece of cake, but it wasn't actually. And I remember like I couldn't focus myself. Like I was at work and I was like a mess, even to the point that my boss said, like you are not, like you are making mistakes, you are not meeting the deadlines, because I was like a total mess.
Yeah.
And I remember I was driving, I was always crying, like I was by myself. And I wish at that point I had the coach or somebody which I did not know about, somebody who can actually help me in that particular situation, so I didn't have to go through that alone. Yes, there was a lot of fear, like especially, like we were already married for 19 years. Like, like what exactly is for me to do, right? And that's exactly something that I want to share with people, right? The magic lies in things that you avoid doing. Because when we are sitting in that comfort zone and we are like, okay, my, like everything is okay in my life, my marriage is okay, or, like my relationship is okay, but the good is the enemy of great. So when you really start asking yourself, like, where is the area that is calling me? Where is that area in my life that I'm ready to change, although I'm afraid? But again, it's just like once you step into that unknown, yes, it's scary, but that's where the life like really shows up for you.
Yeah. I love that. I wanted to highlight that for the listening audience because I think, it's so easy for people to look at you and I and Yanko and be like, "Oh," but we've all done it afraid 100 times over. There's
Mhm.
nothing that I have not stepped into that I haven't had some type of crippling fear, especially when it came to examining my unconscious behaviors and making different choices. So, for anybody out there who's like, wow, this seems like really hard and scary, it is. It really is. But to Irina's point, when you have somebody, anybody, whether it's a clerk and
Yes,
there
yes.
I
So
go
you
again.
started
I'm
to
out.
say if you have somebody by your side.
Yep. Yeah,
Well,
leaning into love and you
workout
can't
buddy.
go wrong.
Yeah,
Mhm.
workout buddy. It's always good to have somebody, because the journey doesn't feel like a lone journey anymore. It's like taking a walk in the park. Yeah, sure, it'll be like okay if you want to be by yourself, but sometimes that gets boring, and sometimes you look for company. Maybe you call somebody to chat with when you walk in or something. So
Mhm.
either way, it's okay. At
Yeah.
least to me, it's okay. um, because sometimes I need the motivation. Um, but then, in my case, especially, the motivation can turn it into kind of like a challenge to show that I'm better than the other side, which I'm not. Like we're all equal, we're all the same. So that's kind of like but you choose what you want to experience. That's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to say one last thing. My invitation is for everybody to step over that invisible line that you draw for yourself. Because I remember I was watching the video by Jim Quick, where he was sharing his experience. And, like if we put our fingers, from both sides of the heads, that how far we are from where we want to be, right? So it's all in our mindset.
Yep.
If we allow ourselves to have a different experience, a different life, it all starts from us, because we are the ones to give ourselves the permission. So
Yeah,
allow
please.
yourself to experience something different, to make your life worthy of living. So when you look at your life and you look back and say, hey, I've done my best and I experienced the life to the fullest and there are no regrets.
On that, guys, this has been an amazing episode of For No Particular
Mm,
Reason. Irina, I hope you come back and join us
yes.
to share your wisdom and insight. You are a true gift to Yanko and myself, as well as the listening audience. And for me, guys, I'm just going to encourage you again, if nothing else, find moments of laughter in each day, because a laughter is a pretty powerful energy within itself, and it can break up the monotony and allow you to recognize that you don't have to take this so seriously.
Yes. And thank you so much for inviting. That was so delightful.
Well, we're happy to have you. We vibed really good, and energy was good, and we're like feeding off each other's energy. I love it. It
Thank
was a
you.
great experience.
Thank you,
So
everybody.
thank you all. We'll see you next week around the same time. Every time on Friday, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, and 7 Pacific. And thanks for your support.
Thank you.